Hello, hello. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Adobe Live. I'm Jack, and I am joined by the amazing Mel Milloway. Mel has a super fun project planned for you all today in Adobe XD. But before we get into it, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. I see Laura, Annika, Katarina, Corey, lots of friends already joining. If you're over on YouTube, make sure to hop on over to Behance. Behance is where the party is at. That's where we'll be reading the chat and answering your questions. Also, right after the stream today, you can catch the XD Daily Creative Challenge. So if you are interested in learning XD after seeing what Mel works on today, you can join in with that. So without further ado, Mel, how's it going?
Hi, Jack. I'm so excited to be here once again. It's been a few years since I've been on Adobe Live and doing XD stuff live. So I'm very excited for this. Very different atmosphere though, because obviously we're at home and before I was in a studio. So this is quite different, but I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. Mel is a learning experience designer from Austin, Texas, currently at Miro. And Mel is in Austin and I am in Cleveland. So very different climates. It's actually snowing here currently. So
and it's 80 degrees here.
Wild.
So very different. Yes.
Oh, I see Val in the chat. How's it going, Val? Umacorn. All right. So Mel, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your project?
Yeah, I'm very excited to introduce myself. So we'll begin over here on my project overview. So as you all know, I'm Mel Milloway. My full name's Melissa Milloway, but I go by Mel. I'm a learning experience design manager. So some of you are probably like, what on earth is that? So it's a very, I would equate it to a very like specific subset in UX, UI type stuff. So what I do is, and specialize in, is really how people learn. So it's very specific, and what we typically will create is different kinds of products. So it could be like a course, or it could be within a product itself, a learning experience. So for instance, when you're in Adobe XD, nowadays you may see like a little pop-up that comes up as you're doing things, and it's actually like a tutorial that will link out to maybe like a short snippet on what to do when it comes to layers or different actions. So really what I specialize in is understanding what kinds of learning do people need? Do they need a short video, a course, and then creating those types of assets. So that brings me to what we're going to be working on today. And so my problem statement is, we are actually going to be working on the UI for a quiz. So what I do in my role today is I own a site called Miro Academy. There's a lot of people that work on this alongside of me. And so we create these different types of trainings, events, things like that help people learn about different ways to use Miro, which is a whiteboarding collaboration tool. So what we're going to be doing today is looking at the built-in quiz functionality of the authoring tool that we use. And we're going to be redesigning that, reimagining it to create an amazing user experience, hopefully. So we'll be doing that on the Getting Started with Miro course, which is a course that covers all of the fundamentals of Miro, I would say. So back over to XD. So what I'm seeing with this course, and it's something that I haven't, or not course, but the quiz, it's something that I haven't user tested yet, but I do plan on user testing in the state that it's in, is what I'm hypothesizing is that users will feel frustration because the quiz does not act as they anticipated. And so what that means to me is that users are expecting this quiz to act in a certain way, to behave in a certain way. So some of the things that we would be looking at is reviewing and changing their answers before submitting. So in the current state, there's no way for folks to actually take the quiz, look at their answer, change their answer before submitting an answer. And that's something that we would expect on something like a quiz. And then the next one is clearly interpret their results. So I'll show you the results screen and what that looks like. It's a little bit difficult to interpret. Wait, did I pass? Did I fail? What do I need to do differently? Those types of things. And then be able to take the quiz on a mobile device, or really any device, without friction. That's a huge one, and that's super important, especially as we know people are on the go. They may be out and about wanting to just do some short learnings and take a quiz. And then also have the same trusted brand experience. So the current experience out of the box doesn't really fit the Miro brand. And so something I want to really focus on is bringing to life our brand in this quiz. So that brings me on to what we'll be doing today. So for day one, we're going to review the current state of the design, where it's at right now. We're going to work on low fidelity wireframes. I was going back and forth with if this is something that we should do because it could take a while, but what I plan to do is focus on the wireframes first and talk really about the why behind these things and why the decision making behind this before I move on to high fidelity. And then hopefully towards the end of today, we'll begin on the high fidelity design. And then tomorrow, we can cover this later, but we'll go on to high fidelity and do some prototyping. And I'm really excited because of the new plugin that has, it's an Adobe XD called Lottie. So for Lottie files, yes, it's so exciting. And it's just a really great way to add delight to a project. So if you're looking for a way to add in animations using code that you can create in After Effects, or you can grab your own animations, it's a really great resource. So excited to share that with people because that's new.
Yeah, chat, let us know if you have used the new features in Adobe XD at all yet, if you've explored video or Lottie animations. We'd love to hear what your experience has been.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to hear about that and any of the new features as well. I'm going to be showing some of the other new features off that have been super helpful to me. So let's take a look at the previous quiz experience. The first thing I do want to cover, I just took a screenshot from inside one of our courses so that I could show you what one of the courses looks like today. So this is an example of one of the pages in the course. This is a video. You can't see the controls down here, but there are controls. And then you can see a navigation over here that shows you like what you've gone through, your progress, those types of things. One of the things I don't think I'll get to in this session, but that I might do offline at some point is revisit doing this whole navigation. So this and the quiz follow the same sort of navigation. So I'm not actually going to worry about this because the quiz could be separate from this entirely if we wanted it to be, or it could be a part of the course. But when we're covering it today, we'll just have the quiz be its own separate thing for now. So that brings me to the current state of the quiz. One of the things that I really love to do with XD that's super helpful if you have a project where, say, you don't have a design system or you don't have mockups or anything already made and you want to take screenshots and leave comments, I will use the review link to actually go through and make comments to myself on like what needs to change and why it needs to change. So I've already gone ahead and done that. When you select what you want to review, you can go to share. And then in share, what I select is the design review. And then I'll typically change the access depending on who I want to access the link. And then you can go ahead and copy the link there. So I've gone ahead and done that already just to show you what I typically will do if this is the case. And here's an example of what one of the screens would look like. So I've gone down here and I've left a comment to myself, and you can do this with your team. So I wrote down here, it's clear down here what number question we are on, but on mobile, there's no indicator what number we're on. So on the mobile side of things, which we can look at down here, it cuts off completely. You don't know what question you're on. You don't know where you're at. There's no indicator. So what I'll do is do things like this, leave comments and questions on what would need to be changed. So it's just a really great way to collaborate with other people and get feedback.
Yeah, that's a really smart idea to kind of use at the beginning of your process with those screenshots to write down any kind of notes. And also to gather, because you can share that link with other people, gather notes from, other people on your team or even users for some user feedback. So very cool way to use that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super easy to use too, which is great.
Yeah, so chat, I have a question for you. Let us know in the chat what your experience is working with these sort of online quizzes. I think we could maybe do a little bit of user research in the chat. So it could be some fun. Give some Mel some research while she's working through this.
Yeah, and I heard earlier when we started, Jack, I think Annika's here, and Annika, if it's Annika from my team, I don't know how many Annikas there are out there, but I have an Annika on my team. So hi, Annika, if it is you.
Yeah, Annika is a regular on Behance, so it may or may not, but yeah.
It might be a different one.
Might be.
Awesome. So let's look at the quiz here, and I'll just make a few comments about this, and then we can jump into working on the wireframes. So for the page that I have here, it's just it's very plain. There's not really any kind of like visual hierarchy here. Your eye just kind of gets drawn directly to the start quiz. There's little information that really tells you what's going on and what to do. So this is something that I think we have a really big opportunity on here. And then the next page here is the actual quiz question. So for this one, there's a few different things that I would like to be able to do here. So as I said before, I like the stepper that's here, but it's something that I might move to the top, and I might remove the numbers from and actually have a number indicating what number we're on closer to the quiz question itself. So what I might change this to is a familiar pattern that people have seen before, which is you look on like Instagram and different apps and you see these, but they're typically at the top, not at the bottom. So I want to make it seem like a more familiar experience for users. Something that's really important when we're designing quizzes is you don't want to overload someone's cognitive load. You want everything to be familiar. You don't want to have them guessing about how to use the quiz. Something else that I find to be important as well is having practice activities too. So quizzes are really good for things like declarative knowledge, which is kind of understanding how, like, does someone know the terminology? Not necessarily can someone do the thing. So before someone even takes the quiz, I like to give them the opportunity to practice. So typically for different types of software and things like that, people will have a sandbox or have some sort of way for people to practice, or a practice activity. So that's something else that I just wanted to call out because I think it's very unique to my specific field, but might be interesting for others.
For sure. We've got a question in the chat. Laura is asking if you can share an XD link with people who do not have XD, and you do not need to have XD in order to open a review link. You do, however, need to have a Adobe account if you want to leave comments. So there you go. Ooh, and things are flying in here. Andre's got some feedback for you on quizzes. Mixed feelings about online quizzes, but would love to be able to design my own layout. Would it be possible to link InDesign quizzes made in XD like into a book?
That's really interesting. I'm not quite sure. What I typically do is, and Jack and I were talking about this before, what I will do is I'll design the quiz and then I'll work in an authoring tool and I'll do the styling in CSS. So we were talking a little bit about, like, do designers need to code and those types of things. And my answer is I don't think so necessarily. So for me, it came out of necessity. In a lot of learning and development roles, folks aren't provided with a web developer or web designer, so you take on learning these different areas. So something that I will do is work with an authoring tool, and then I'll do all the styling. So I won't do a lot of the JavaScript. All of that will be in play. It will be more so me styling things, moving things around on the screen to try to make the experience better. So that's just a little bit about some of the things that I do. So this last screen here, this is the results screen. So as you can see, there is a lot going on here and a lot of repetitive information. you don't necessarily immediately know that you didn't pass, except for this bright red, very aggressive, you did not pass, which seems very negative. I don't know that that's the best way to convey that to people.
It's very like Gandalf, like you shall not pass.
It is, yes, it totally is. This graph's really difficult to read, so you have to look over here, then you have to look over here. Is it even necessary? I don't know. So there's a lot of things in this quiz just in general that I want to look at and revisit. There are some things that I think work stylistically need to be different, but work. Allowing people to retake the quiz is really important. This isn't like a high stakes test where someone's getting like certified to do surgery, or I don't know, that's like a terrible example, but it's not something where it's like a life or death thing. So it's something that we should allow people to retake things, and it makes things stickier. The more someone is exposed to specific information, the more that knowledge will stick with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what is that Maslow's hierarchy of learning or whatever, where like if you like just being exposed to it is like the bottom, but like learning sort of like what you did and like how you can the right information, I guess, is higher up on that. So we're sort of like expanding people's ability to remember the details in the quiz, essentially.
Yeah. And there's another model. It's the 5 moments of need when it comes to learning. And it talks also about like the different types of learning people need. So when someone's learning something for the first time, they may need something more in depth versus someone who is just struggling. Like they have the basics and the knowledge, but they're just struggling. So if I'm just struggling to do something in Adobe XD, like all I need is just, a one piece of information to help me. I don't need an entire course, right? So there's different moments of need for people when they're learning. And then these are the mobile screenshots. So here also a lot of things going on that should be changed. So for instance, one of the other things Jack and I were speaking a lot about was accessibility. So for instance, this answer is wrong. But if maybe you're colorblind, or you may have other vision issues or different things going on, the red may not necessarily be very helpful for someone. We may need other indicators to help us understand that something is correct or incorrect. So using an icon or something else can really help people, and it helps everyone in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that more and more, especially people use like closed captioning on video, they use navigation with keyboard, and it's not necessarily, it's just it's user preference more than it is specific accessibility feature.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the screen that we previously saw. There's not a lot of white space going on. Things are very crunched together. It's very difficult to know where you should focus. So this is another screen that we'll also be working on.
Yeah, I think overall it's just a lot of like information hierarchy kind of problems to address. So very exciting.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll just give you a quick overview of some of our brand colors and what our site currently looks like. So here is just an overview of the sitemap. So we have our home screen here, and then from the home screen, you can sign up or register for the Academy, or you can go straight to Miro. On the actual home screen, we have a few different things going on. We have the ability for people to register for live training. So we have 3 different places where they can do that. And then we have all of these courses. And then the one thing that I'm going to be speaking about today is a learning path. So the idea is that we would have the Getting Started with Miro course in that learning path, and then there would be a quiz that would be another part of this. So I'm actually working on a very special project right now, so I can't reveal too much, but I already do have the learning path built out. So that page is built out. I just can't show it because it has some confidential information on it that I cannot share at this moment, but I plan to be able to share that probably sometime, hopefully in December.
Yeah, so stay tuned, everybody, and I'm sure Mel will be posting when that's, ready to be revealed. So Mel, where can everybody find you if they want to follow along?
Yeah, absolutely. So I post most of our Academy courses and any kind of updates on LinkedIn. So if you want to go ahead and follow or connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm Melissa Milloway on LinkedIn. And then also I do share on Twitter. Twitter's kind of more of my, I would say, it's professional, but it's also personal. So something Jack and I were also talking about is 3D printing. So I'll share a lot of my 3D
Yay.
printing stuff. Yes, I share a lot of that on Twitter. So that's a little bit of a different side of things.
Yeah, Mel and I discovered we have the same hobby.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So if you're in chat and you 3D print, please let us know.
Let
if
us know. Yeah.
3D print, because we find out that a lot of people who are in design are very into 3D printing.
I see Gareth in the chat, and I know Gareth is like a 3D printing pro, so I'm sure Gareth will chime in with enthusiastically.
Great. So then our logo and brand colors here. I didn't want to do something too extensive on this because we have a central repository for all this, so it's sort of like the single source of truth. The Academy is separate, so a lot of my designs are separate, but I go back to our original file for all of our colors and things like that. So I have this here, but something that's super handy that I've gone ahead and done, and I really love this feature in XD, is I put all our brand colors over here, and now you can group all of your colors, and you can also group your fonts. So my main colors, all my colors are here. These are my main colors. And then, well, actually this should be up here. I think I just moved it. And then I have my secondary colors, my extended colors, and that includes just some of the colors for sticky notes and our cursors.
Yeah, well, Mel and I were both professing our love for this feature. It's so handy to keep your document organized.
Yeah, I love organization. And I went ahead and started doing some things for the fonts as well. So I have desktop, and then once we get to mobile, I'll add mobile over here.
Great. Yeah, lots of people are saying that they don't 3D print, but want to. Katarina's saying I 3D print with clay.
Oh, that's neat. That is so cool. And then we have so many different illustrations and then different UI components. I've just pulled a few of these that we could play around with either today or tomorrow. So I'm excited to use some of these. These are just, this is probably like 5%, not even 5%. It's probably like 0.5% of what we have available. And then whenever I start a project, one of the most important things for me is to go out and find examples of things that do work so that I can then go apply them to the project that I'm working on. So if a component isn't something that exists and I need to create it from scratch, such as like we haven't done a quiz before, so this is brand new, I would go ahead and find some different types of components that I like that are either proven to work or seem like that they would work really well. And then I'll take screenshots and bring them into a mood board. And so I have this one. This one is actually a little bit older. This is from Google. So they did the game of the year. It was a quiz of the year. And then they have some very delightful animations that happen here. And then while I don't necessarily know that the colors work for this one, I think there's some elements of this that do work. And then I have some question screens here for different types of questions. And feedback screens. This was the hardest thing to find, but it's one of the most important things when you're creating a quiz, that you have feedback and it's immediate feedback so someone can take that in. So this is something that, while it was difficult to find, it is very important. This one's from an example using an authoring tool called Articulate Rise, and they do a really good job of this. So they'll show you what you selected, what the incorrect answers were, and what the correct answers were. And they give you the opportunity to take it again. Nice. And then lastly is the results screen. So I have a few here. This one's from Duolingo. It's not necessarily a results screen, but it's just a way that they're showing how people are doing in a specific way, which I thought was laid out in a helpful manner. And then some others that show how many they did get correct versus incorrect, and some celebration moments. So I think there's some good takeaways here.
Yeah, I love the little confetti in that one.
Yeah, that's
super cute.
That's something I'm excited to work on at the end as well, is having some sort of celebration moment, and maybe it's having confetti fly up from the sky or fall down from the sky if you've gotten a passing score.
So fun. Annika saying these screens look really well thought out, and is asking, how much time do you typically spend in the research phase, Mel?
Yeah, so it's interesting. It depends on the type of project that we're working on. For courses, I think we do like 2 to 3 weeks, because research it is working with users, but it's also working with our product teams. And it's working with marketing and different people, because our courses tend to focus on something new, like a new feature that's coming out. We just released a course on mapping and diagramming in Miro, and that covers all of our new mapping and diagramming features. So we're pretty well aligned with product, and then we'll get user feedback and do user testing, and usually learn things to make improvements on our different courses and content that our team's working on.
Very cool.
Great. So I have gone ahead and created just a very low fidelity mock-up of what the main screen could look like. And so what I have been using, and what I like using for just really quick low fidelity wireframes, is this plugin called Quick Mockup. There's some really good UI like wireframing libraries through Adobe as well. I like using both. This one is just on the go, on the fly, works really well. So I've been using this quite a bit.
Yeah, I have that plugin as well.
Yeah, it's very handy. So the one that I've been using is Foundation. So this one, it has actually some very similar colors to what our brand colors are, but I'll have to go back and change these colors here. So this is a component that I put together of the nav that actually does have our color in it. So you can tell this one's a bit brighter. Something I like to do is, for anything that's a navigation or something that's going to be repeating across multiple screens, is to create it into a component. So I had this one handy, and I went ahead and popped it out from over here. Hold on a second. So what you can do is create a component. It will add it over to components, and then you can drag it and drop it onto the screen. And if I say have this on multiple screens, so let me go down here. I actually do have it on multiple screens. If I want to change it and have it apply to all the screens, all I have to do is go to Edit, Main Component. And then I can come here, and maybe I want this to be bold or something like that, which I do not, but it's just a good example of what you can do. And it will go and apply it to all of your screens. So it's just a nice way to scale your design and get things done quickly. So I'll try to make components for those things that repeat across multiple boards.
Yeah, components are super handy. Makes your life way easier. Like in this case with the nav across the top, if you had to update that on every single screen, if you made a change, I can't even imagine how long that would take.
Yeah, and even copying and pasting, like
yeah.
even if you go and select every board and then you copy and paste, it's still more time than if you would just edit the component. So it's super handy.
Val is asking both of us, Mel and Jack, what are some projects you've done recently that you are very proud of? Do you want to go first?
Yeah, there's one I'm working on right now that's the one that I can't really talk about, but I am very proud of it. I joined Miro about 5 months ago, so I've been working on more longer term projects. But I'm very excited to be able to work with our learning experience designers who do design courses, and Madison, who is on my team and a learning experience designer. I'm really proud of our mapping and diagramming course that we put out, because it really gives people the opportunity to practice their skills It has a story that interweaves throughout the whole thing, which makes it a little bit more sticky. So I am really proud of that project that our teams worked on.
Awesome. We're excited to see how it turns out. Can't wait till you can share it.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah. What project am I most proud of? I have a lot of projects I've been working on. I recently started a subscription on Behance, and I'm pretty proud of the work I've done on that. But in terms of like my full-time job as a UI UX designer, I have a lot of projects again in the works, but they're not kind of out there yet. Currently working on a really fun branding project at work. I really like when I get the chance to work on the branding and then into the actual web design and how it all kind of flows together. I think those are probably some of my favorite projects. So there you go. Whoop, hang on. Scrolling up. Chester's asking, maybe I missed it. What program is Mel working in? Doesn't look like Miro.
It isn't. It's XD.
Yes, we're working in XD. We are designing for Miro, but we're working in XD. And maybe you could give a little overview for people joining on, what Miro is.
Yeah, absolutely. So Miro is a whiteboarding collaboration tool. And what I do is I work on the academy at Miro. So we create videos and courses and things like that that help people learn about how to use Miro for different use cases.
And I think somebody else had another question. Laura says, Mel, what is your dream project?
My dream project. What is my dream project? As of right now, probably something with 3D printing. I would love to. I would love to be able to create my own files, and then I would love to be able to share them with people. So maybe working on a website for that. I do have passion projects. So my partner and I worked on an affiliate website for small dog products.
I love that project.
Yes. And I made it with Adobe XD, and then he developed it. So he's an engineer and he went ahead and developed that. And so that was one that was fun to work on as well.
Yeah, that's on Mel's website if you want to go and take a look. I would check out Mel's website in general because it's really fun, just a fun experience overall, I would say. I noticed the little Easter egg of the tab text that changes when you're off of the site. It's cute.
Thank you. Yeah, please don't go. So if you are on the tab, it will change the text and the emoji, the fave icon on the top, and it'll say, please don't go. And so I'm going to work over here on this, the iPhone frame here. And so some of the things that I like to do and adjust, I've already made the adjustment on the 1366 one here. So this I've created a layout, and so I've made my columns a little bit lighter so it's easier to see. So that's something I will always set up beforehand. So I might just steal from this one over here, and then I want to take the opacity way down. I actually don't know what it is over here. Let's see. Do the same thing over here. I think it was like 11. That doesn't seem right.
Mel is like currently setting up essentially a grid for the design here. Mel, do you always work in the same sort of grid system, or?
No, it depends. It depends for this particular project. What I'm trying to do is I know based on like Google Analytics, what our 3 like major screen sizes are. So I'm just focusing on those today. And then because I'm developing this and I'm not handing it off to a developer, I'm just keeping it at kind of like the same size for all of them here.
Gotcha.
But what I would typically do is if I'm not doing a layout and I would move to square, I would usually, for me, use square and do like 8 points if I'm doing something like, say like an icon design or something that requires it to be really pixel perfect. So if I want it to be very pixel perfect, I would work more with the square grid versus layout.
Laura is asking, how do you make quizzes fun and engaging and make sure the information is retained? Ooh, big question there.
Yeah, it's definitely all about having balance. So for me, when I have a screen, I want to be able to say like why every single thing is on that screen, what value is it adding? Is it helping something to be sticky? Is it distracting? So I like to keep things pretty simple and clean for the most part. I'll have decorative elements, but I don't want them to be there to distract people. I want them to be able to more so enhance the quiz or add that kind of like brand element without being distracting. So that's really very important to me.
Yeah, it's important that, everything that you add on the screen essentially has, intention, and that you don't overwhelm the viewer with, like you said, cognitive overload.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So I'm just going to go ahead, trying to figure out what is going on with my layout and why is my text behind the layout? That has never happened to me before.
Very interesting. Maybe check your layers.
Yeah, I did. That's why I was like, why is it doing that? That's so strange. So I think I'm just going to turn this off for now, and then I will eyeball it.
What if you drag that text over to another screen? Does it go behind the other layouts, or is it just that one?
No, it's just this
that's
one.
Strange.
Huh. It's just the iPhone. It just doesn't like the iPhone, you know? Let's see if it does it here. It does. It must be the iPhone. Okay. Well, we'll turn it off for now, and then we'll turn it back on later. I was like, huh. Okay. So let's go ahead and move all this stuff over here, and we'll just eyeball it. So one of the other things that I will profess that I am not good at, but is very important in working with different devices is the font size and line height. And so what I'll typically use is some sort of calculator to help me if I'm using like a font size that I haven't used before and I don't know what the exact line height should be. So what I will do is I'm going to go ahead and work with these.
Yeah, there's like online tools like Type Scale is one, and those can like kind of help you determine the scale between the two.
Yeah. And something I'll also do is I'll do math over here in Adobe XD too. So you can divide things and you can multiply things and different things like that. So if I wanted to make this a little bit smaller, so say I wanted it to be 32, which I don't think it should be, I would go ahead and make that to be a little bit smaller. But I think maybe we'll look at this. I'm going to ungroup these.
So Richard's saying try send it back. I wonder, did you try maybe
with this?
Yeah.
Yeah, like why would it
bring the text to front? Oh no.
No. Maybe I found a bug. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's try a different device. Maybe that would work here.
Laura's saying the guys in grid have always appeared on top for me. They don't have layer status, so it's not possible to send them back.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I'm just not sure why it's only happening on this board. Huh.
Let's see. Yeah, it's just that board. Let's see this one. No. Yeah. Huh. Okay. So maybe what I'll do, let me delete that one. I'm just going to duplicate this one and start using this one. I have a lot of things to do here.
Looks like Slyman is downloading XD now. Exciting.
Yeah.
Saying, in which authoring tool will you later design the quiz?
Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about and asking around about. One that I have used in the past is called Adapt, but there is one that's built on Adapt called Evolve. And that's something that's like, it's super customizable. So that might be one that I would take a look at and potentially use. Now, I wonder if I change this, if this is going to be.
Yeah, I wonder if that was maybe it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to even mess with it. We'll just leave this one a different color for now. But maybe just like make it a little bit lighter so I can see it a bit better.
Yeah, and keep the questions coming in the chat if you've got questions for Mel.
So the font size for this one is 40. So what I might do, I have this, there's a million tools like this that are super helpful. So you can put in, this is called the good line height. So this one I can put in 40. There's different things that will change based on what your inputs are. So you might have something like that's a bigger width, a different kind of a font. So they might want to be different. So this one says for 40, I could use 56 would be my line height. And this will just make it more legible. When things are further away from each other, they don't feel as related, or they are harder to read. So let's see, let's do, what did it say, 30? No, it said something else. Hold on. 56. So this one looks a lot better than the previous one. And then I'll just get this as close as possible.
Yeah, it's a good note about the line height, not only adjusting your font sizes between different screens, but also making sure that you change that line height with the font change. So
yeah, it's very important. I'll keep the paragraph text the same size. I think that actually looks pretty good. And one of the other things with this that's important when I'm thinking about like doing coding or anything like that is this would span all of the columns on the screen. So if I had this here, it would be like 50%, or it would be not all of the columns across the screen. So that would be something I would be thinking about. The other thing with this too, that I'm also considering is this being centered or not, or sorry, this being centered or left aligned. Whenever I have more than 2 or 3 lines of text, I typically will just left align them because it's easier to read. So for instance, like if you're thinking about reading a book, obviously everything's not center aligned because your eye has to go, it would go in and then out and then in and out, and it would be really difficult and strenuous. It would require a lot of cognitive load. So that's something that I also try to be cognizant of when I'm designing something, is just the alignment in general.
So do you typically start with identifying, your problem and doing some user research? Like, where does your process usually start? Is this fairly typical?
Yeah, I would say for the most part, usually I would come up with like a hypothesis, and that would usually stem from some sort of data. So maybe we're getting feedback from people that something's hard to use, or you're noticing that a lot of people are accessing something and not completing it. And that helps you to really pinpoint like, okay, this is what I hypothesize the problem to be. And then go and work with users to identify, like, is that truly the problem? And trying to do it in a way where you're not causing any bias as well. That's something that's probably the most difficult, I think, to do, because you want to get that true feedback from them, and you don't want to ask questions like, how did you, like, it seems like you enjoyed the experience. Like, how did you enjoy it? Like, that's kind of like already inferring like they enjoyed the experience or something like that. So asking things in a way that wouldn't put bias on someone. So, nope, you can go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, Simon is saying repeat grid is a great tool. So yes, yeah. It is.
Absolutely. So one of the things here that I may actually take away is this go to Miro. So there is a Miro app that you can use on your phone or tablet or whatnot, but I don't know that that's really important for Academy. So it is important on desktop. Most people are going to be on their desktop, but I don't know that that's something that we would need on mobile. So that might be something that I would take away for the mobile piece. Then I would probably, let's see, let me think about this one. Ungroup that.
So just as a reminder, I am here with Mel. Mel is working on a quiz experience in Adobe XD. And if you have any questions for Mel, throw them in the chat. And I think a couple more people have joined since, so I'll re-ask the question of what your experience is with these sort of online quizzes, and do you have any pain points that we can address with this new design? And also, if you're joining us on YouTube, be sure to hop over to Behance. That's where we're answering questions, and that's where the chat is, so we can make sure that we get your questions answered and chat with us, because we're cool people.
I'm actually going to ungroup this over here. Right now I'm just working on the footer. This is just a standard that we have across. I don't know. I don't have these grouped together here.
Are there any challenges when, I know that I've come across this in my experience, but from your perspective, is it challenging sometimes to work within an existing design and make sure that you've got all of these kind of elements included and everything like that?
Yeah, I think it's what's difficult more than anything when you're working with with an authoring tool is the ability to make it become what you want it to become. So a lot of the times when I'm thinking through these designs, it is for the user first, and it's also what's feasible for me to be able to do as well. But that always comes second. And then if it's something that's super important, but I'm not able to do it, maybe it is having someone come on who is a developer to help out with that particular problem. So more than anything, it's more so trying to work within the constraints of the actual tool that you're working in. So if you're working with like a content management system or something like that, and you're having to make changes, there's a lot more to consider than I think when you're working with a developer who can build you anything that you want, really.
Yeah, you're sort of having to pick and choose, does this really need to be a bespoke, element that breaks our current system or not? So
yeah, for sure.
Annika saying, when you create wireframes for the mobile app, do you try to replicate the web experience? For instance, in this case, would it be a good idea to add a hamburger menu and include both the redirect and view dashboard links?
Redirect. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah, something I'm working on separate from this is creating a whole new navigation. So that's something that I would definitely have to code and figure out, like what should be included on mobile, what shouldn't be. The reason I didn't put the Go to Miro on this one in particular was just the fact that most people are probably like the functionality of the app that's on your phone and the app that's on your computers is different. So I don't know that that would be something that people would be looking for on their phones. So I figure, why put it up there if it's not something that people would be using? So just trying to figure out like what would work best from their mobile experience in regards to a quiz. I don't know that is, but if it is something that people are looking for, it's definitely something I would go and add back in.
Great question, Annika. And Anna is saying, are you also involved in writing the copy for questions for quizzes, or do you prefer to keep the two roles separate, writer's role and learning experience designer, or do you see it as part of it?
So, yeah, that's another really great question. Typically, folks who are in learning experience design, they'll do both. So I have written all of the questions and the answers and the feedback and things like that. So in learning roles, I haven't really seen that many people who have been working with, say, like a technical writer or copywriter to write those questions. It is something that is a part of like that instructional design piece, is the question writing. Although there are people who are like, I think, psychometricians, who that is their whole job, and they'll write questions for tests and things like that. So it's a lot more formal. Yeah, so it just depends on the role in the company and different things like that.
Yeah, for sure. I could see a lot of crossover, even if they are separate roles, kind of both sides working together to make sure that everything works out.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to play with this a little bit more. The other thing that I like to try to do is whenever I'm doing the character amount that goes across a paragraph, I try to keep it around, I think the best practice is like 40 to 60-ish. And something else you can do, like if you are coding your own stuff, is there is a CSS that enables you to be able to set the max width of it. So you can say like max width 60, and that would be 60 characters. So in anywhere that you have a paragraph, it won't go beyond 60 characters. It allows you just to set it at that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and XD actually has some features that can help with, spacing and things like that with the padding and stacks. So you can kind of add in those margins or spacing as you're building out your components to make sure that they stay the same distance from each other. Val is asking, have you ever designed an app feature that was not doable when it came time to create it, and how did you solve that?
Yes, definitely. But it's not that it's not doable by an engineer or someone like that. It's more so it's like not doable by me. Because typically in the past I haven't had, say, like an engineer to work with. So I was working at Amazon previous to this, and one of the things that we created was a website that allowed folks in HR to be able to quickly get answers to problems that would come up that could, like, people like managers could self-service them on. So like, say someone comes to you and they ask you a question about like taking leave or something like that, and there's a whole article on how to do that and different things, but the manager just doesn't know how to get to that information. So the HRBP could point them to it. They'd have like a whole list. And one of the features that would have been awesome to have is for folks to be able to actually like have like a smart search versus like just like having to search the page. Like that was something that that I was like, there's no way that I would be able to code it. So basically what we're creating is like a prototype, and if this is something that we want to move on beyond a prototype, we could have an engineer come in and do that for us. So a lot of times it's things that I just don't have the ability or skill set to be able to do like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not necessarily that it's not possible, it's just a matter of whether or not it makes sense for the project to involve like a developer to custom write some piece of it, or if you can do it yourself. It's a balance for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, this screen looks very short. So one of the things sometimes I like to do is just go and hit play and see like what the experience would look like. So I'll just take a look at things throughout as I'm working on them, just to see what that would look like on someone's phone and different phone sizes and things like that. I'm gonna move down to, because these are very low fidelity, I'm not gonna add too much here. We'll just come through later and just play with the sizing of different things, but I'll come down here and start working on the first question. So we're just gonna do one question for today and tomorrow, and then if we do have time, I can add on a different type of a question. This is gonna be a pick one. So the question here, this is one I just came up with on the fly, which best describes Miro's boards? So what I'll go ahead and do sometimes as well is come back over to our mood board and take a look at how I have some of these set up, what features they have here. So I have the question already. I like that they have this question 6 of 13 here. So what I want to do is put something that indicates what question they're on. So this one's the same. If you start to notice common patterns that are used across things, I see that as a best practice. If a lot of people are doing it, it must be working, hopefully. So you can see the same thing up here.
It also, I think, shows that it's a common, users would expect that kind of experience from a similar, app or, web experience. So
yeah, absolutely. And I also like that the labels, I don't know if I dislike it or like it actually. If the labels are all uppercase, obviously I wouldn't have the question be all uppercase because it would be difficult to read. And I try to stay away from all uppercase because it's difficult to read, but I do wonder. Yeah, and I'm seeing Google's doing question 1 of 20. So it seems like a lot of people are doing sentence case. So I'll just do that, I think. Go back over and zoom all the way out. And so what I might do here is use, oops, I'm not doing, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's do.
I love how you have the titles like big over each of your sets of boards, like off on the side.
Oh, yes. So I know which one I'm working on. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I feel like I would forget. I sometimes look up here, but I forgot to relabel these before I started.
They're also just those labels are so tiny compared to the question 1 is so big, you see it immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So for this one, I'm just looking over our colors here. This wouldn't be accessible, so I definitely would not use that. I'm using indigo right now. I might use something slightly darker, maybe like the secondary one, or not darker, lighter secondary one here. And the closer things are, the more related they are. There's a really great article that I was reading. I actually have it up here right now by Tescad, and it's the UI cheat sheet for spacing friendships. I don't know how many people have seen this, but I highly recommend checking this out as well. It talks about how the closer things are on, you can use like a 4-pixel scale, like increasing. The closer things are, the more related they are. So I just find this really interesting and really great article. Has some really good examples on here too.
Yeah, this site in general, this UX Collective has a lot of great articles. If you guys get a chance to peruse it, I recommend.
Great. And then,
the examples are so cute.
Yeah, and like this is actually a point where I might use like the square grid if I needed it. So if I'm looking for something like, okay, like how far do I want it? How close do I want it? I might count and do it then. I'm not going to do it for for this particular one since I'm going to be working on all of this afterwards, but could be something if you have some time to invest in. So I have the question and the question numbers. Let's take a look at some other things that we might want to have. So some other things would be the selection for the questions. I really love that a lot of these have like this little radio button almost, like you click the whole thing and it will select the radio button and tell you it's selected, which is nice. Definitely don't want to just have the radio button be the thing that's selected. That's also a big accessibility no-no. Because it would be harder for people to click on that very, very small specific thing.
Especially on mobile.
Oh my gosh, yeah, especially on mobile. So you can see a lot of these are making use of that radio button, but when you hover over, it will change the state color. So that's probably something that I will do right now.
And I'll share the link to that article that you had pulled up
if
anybody wants to see. give it a read?
I'm just making this. So let's see. I'm like, should I do 2 or should it be? And maybe this should be bigger. This is default what I've been using for this particular type of kind of like a question font size, but maybe I should make it a little bit bigger. I can always come back and change it though.
Yeah, there's you start off, I find that happens a lot. You start off designing and then you tweak sort of your character styles as you go and you see them in context.
Yeah. So I do have the copy. I'll typically write the copy beforehand, and I have that over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and see some of these over.
Nice. Have you ever used the Google Sheets plugin for adding copy?
Oh no, I haven't. I should. That sounds like something I should be doing though.
It's really cool. You can put in all the copy in like your like rows and label the columns based on what they are, and you can kind of swap them out using the plugin. It'll go through and find all of the sort of like if you've ever used a data merge in InDesign, it'll find that like little piece of text and swap it out with the copy.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be looking into that. So what I'm trying to figure out here is what this should look like. Let's see. Let's see. I'm thinking about, well, actually I do need the layout back on for this. I want this to span just half, probably. Let's see how this reads though.
So yeah, while you're working on this, you're sort of aligning your elements to your grid, deciding, you know, what 2 columns looks like, what 3 columns looks like, stuff like that as you're kind of working through these. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I'm trying to figure out is the best approach for this. And so what I'm thinking through is if I group this, and so if I did repeat grid, would I want it to be the questions on top of each other like this? So do I want it to be, say, like this, obviously closer because they are more related, or do I want it, and we can take a look at like what that might look like, or do I want it to be something like I guess I didn't need to undo all those, like this, where it's more like wide. And so I don't think, I don't know that I would necessarily do this approach. When I do mobile, it's going to have to be 1 column. It's going to, otherwise there's no way that would work. So, so I'm like, should I, which way? Does anyone have feelings about this, strong feelings in the chat this way? Or
yeah, let us know. 1 column long or 2 columns side by side?
1 column or 2 columns for the desktop.
I think it's also a consideration if you're going to be building the site, you know, how much work for you is it to, you know, set up a 2 column versus 1 column. So
yeah, and for me, for this instance, it's a one and done type of situation. So at least if I do it, like it is a little bit of work up front. For me, it would probably take like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 hours to try to figure out. For someone who's an engineer, it would probably take them like 10 minutes. So yeah, I guess it would depend.
Yeah, Laura is saying 1 column, easier to focus and read. So there you go.
Great. And now we're going to have another question after this, which is where do we put the next button? Should we put it on the left, in the middle, on the right? I typically see them on the right-hand side, especially because that's kind of like the direction that you would go in for a lot of these authoring tools. When I do forms, though, I've heard when you're doing forms and you have some sort of submit button, I've seen articles where it says put it on the left because of the pattern that your eye follows. I don't I don't know if anyone has any thoughts or feelings on that either.
Yeah, let us know. Oh, Cornell is also saying 1 column indeed.
Okay.
One column. So yes, definitely 1 column according to the chat. But let us know if you guys prefer the next button to be on the left or the right.
Or even center.
Yeah, or centered. I guess it depends too on, are you planning on having like a back button of some sort as they go through this chat experience, or?
I wasn't planning on having a back button. I was also thinking there's so many different things you can do with quizzes, right? Because you could do next, you could do back, you could do skip.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't know. Doing back and having to figure out, like, did I answer this one and not answer this one? I don't know if that would be too much. But what I do want to do is create a way for someone to exit or retake it at any point. So especially if there's a passing score and we say the passing score is 80%, if they at any point are at risk of not getting the 80%, I want to immediately be able to tell them, hey, like, do you want to be able to retake this right now?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Sort of prompt them. Looks like Laura is saying bottom right for the next button, I think. I've mostly seen and used it there, so I think that would be more intuitive. Katarina is also saying right, so if that helps you make your decision.
I think that's a good decision. We'll do that. And I'm noticing I'm not even using the wireframing kit. I'm just doing it on the fly. So yeah. So I'm like, should we put it here? Let's see. Because I think if it's all the way over here, people
it might be a little bit too far, especially if you're on like an even wider screen. It might start to get really far away from your question. So
yeah,
all things to consider.
We'll just do this, and we can take a look at it on play, what it looks like.
That looks good.
Yeah, it's very clean. Yeah, the other thing that I've also noticed with a lot of these quizzes that people are used to is not scrolling. So they won't do like question and scroll question. It would be really easy to get lost within that. So it's always like staggered. So it's like take a question and then next question. So thinking about the experience in that way too.
Yeah, for sure. And then too, you know, get back to your original kind of mobile situation that was in the original quiz where things were getting cut off because they were going beyond the screen.
Yeah.
So
and I'm over here making my mobile component for this, so I don't have to redo this either. So I'm just going to say mobile navigation.
Nice.
And then I can just reuse this. And then if I want to edit it later, like if we want to do a hamburger menu or something like that, we can go ahead and do that later and just edit it and change it there.
Love how organized this is. It's very organized. It's very systemic. Like the thought process is great. It's, you know, great to see all of the work that goes into like every single little detail. You have to think about, you know, how it impacts the user.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a responsive resize on. So I'm just playing around with this and seeing like, is this something I want to do? Or do I need to change? Look at like, I think this could go out more actually.
Yeah, responsive resize is really handy when you're working on a mobile experience or between a mobile and a desktop experience to, you know, move things around and have them kind of stay in the same general layout, but you know, it's super cool. Super handy feature. And Val is saying, sometimes I misclick, and when I try to go back to on some quizzes, it restarts the whole thing and I get fed up.
Oh yeah, that does not sound like a good experience at all. Yeah, so letting people to be able to retry is definitely super important.
Yeah, Val saying maybe an option at the end of the quiz to edit any answers before you submit would be a nice feature.
I like that. Okay, I'm gonna write that down and add that to the list of things to do for sure. Yeah, I love that. That's so great. And I think, is this Voodoo Val? Is that who?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, Voodoo
okay.
Val.
I met Voodoo Val. We were both on at the same time. Well, not same time, but
Nice.
same week. I don't know if
When you
she
were
remembers me.
the last time you were on Adobe
Yeah.
Live.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm a
Well, I'm
fan.
kind of jealous that you got to meet Val in person.
Okay, so we're just doing repeat grid here. And I have, let's see. Yeah,
Val's
so
also
this is,
saying a quick tip prompt visible during the quiz. Let people know they will be able to review and edit before they submit as well.
ooh, maybe that's something I can have somewhere up here. Let's see.
Val saying yes with lots of S's. Of course, Mel. So there's your answer.
Yay. I'm glad. I was like, I don't know if she remembers me, but I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. I'm like, where am I going with this? Okay. So
You're doing great.
one of the other things I was going to add on, I'm actually going to make room for is the stepper, or I don't, what do you call that component? Like it has to have a specific name where it has like on Instagram stories, it's like the
The little
little,
dots or whatever.
the, yeah,
Yeah.
there's got to be a name for it. And
I
I'm
don't
just
know
blanking on it
the
completely.
technical term
The
for it. I
technical
usually call it the steps as well because it's like
stuff.
each one is a step, but I don't, yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, they'll be on here. I'll be putting them up here as well. So we're gonna add those on too. And then I'm gonna move
Oh, maybe
over.
like a progress, but not like a progress
It's
bar, but
it is
kind
like
of.
progress kind of, yeah. It's a little bit like progress. I'm gonna see what else is over here. I keep forgetting to take my layouts off and like I don't have them. Maybe I should do for this one. Make this my default because I'm not using the screen size. So when you do make default, whenever you do the same size again, it will just apply that layout to it, which is also a great time saving tip, I think. Maybe I just do. Let me just see. The grid
Laura
line.
is saying it's called pagination. Yeah, that makes sense.
Pagination.
Yeah, since they're on different pages. Sometimes I am notoriously bad for remembering the technical terms for things. So
Yes,
thank you, Laura.
that's exactly my problem right now. So we have the next button. We have the people know what question they're on. I do like that, like when we were talking about previous, I do kind of like that this is up here. It's a little bit hidden because maybe it's not as important, say, as like
Right.
next. So I don't know if I'm
I
fully
also like
against
how
this.
like it's really obvious at first glance where you are in the process versus like, the tiny little dots. I like the like long shapes
Yeah,
to make it really clear.
that looks really good. And maybe because I do want to give people the ability to retake it, maybe that's something I don't want it to be right next to the next button because I don't want them to accidentally click on it. So I'm trying to think of where to put that too. And I don't really see that on a lot of these mockups, like the ability to retake it from
Yeah, that would be a
restart.
cool feature for sure.
Yeah.
D is saying outstanding. You got some fans in the chat, Mel.
Now, hopefully I don't confuse this. This might be my manager, D, but it could also not be because
This is
I
D
thought Annika
Ross.
was okay. I'm like, everyone is the same names for my team. So I have a D and an Annika on my team. And I'm like, this is so interesting. We have the same people with the same names as people on my team. Okay. So this is another thing I'd love people's thoughts and feedback on because we were just talking about having some sort of like ability to restart the quiz. Would you prefer to have the ability to restart the quiz at any time or only once you realize like you haven't passed the quiz? So like if it's 80% and you've gone through and you're very close to the end and you know you're not going to score an 80, like would you want something to warn you? Like what would you want the experience to be like for restarting a quiz?
Yeah, so either go through the whole thing or get prompted before you reach the end. Umacorn is saying at the end. Alexandra also has a question. Have you used this design process with SL360? You know what that
Oh,
is?
so that's a software for my industry. So
Okay.
it's an e-learning authoring tool. It's called Storyline 360. And I actually, I created a quiz like a really long time ago. And I created the whole mock-up in Adobe XD. It was right when Adobe XD came out. And then it was a very like social, it was more gamified. It was one where you could see actually like how other people answered. It was like HQ
Oh, that's
trivia.
cool.
Yeah, it was more of an HQ trivia vibe. But yeah, I use the same process for that in doing the design work and everything like that.
We've got some answers coming in. Umacorn said at the
Oh,
end. Katarina said anytime. And Laura's
anytime.
saying ability to edit previous questions at all times, and also a button to restart the quiz from 0.
Ooh, okay.
Lots of
So
options.
I feel like I've heard from multiple people that they want to be able to edit before submitting. So review and then go back and edit. So that's something that I'll think about. Yeah, and like what would the experience be like? So if we did have the steppers or whatever we're calling them up at the top, would we expect people to like click on them and then go and edit, or would it be the edit on the end and like before, like maybe before we get to this page over here? Let's see. Before we get to this page, we have some way for people to edit and then they click submit and they get to their feedback. That's
So
what
it
it
looks
seems
like
like people are saying.
Cornell saying at the end of quiz. Oh no, that might be your previous question. I think Cornell's saying at the end of the quiz for the ability to retake. Umacorn saying, is this a time test? Then at the end. So
I don't think I would time it, since it's not necessarily something that's super high stakes where it's like critical that people will be able to answer these correctly. So yeah, maybe sounds like at the end could be a good possibility.
Alexander saying retake at the end and the ability to only redo the questions you originally failed. People are getting
There's some thoughts
lots
about
of good
this.
feedback from the chat. I love it. Foodaval saying, oh, and a save for later feature in case you find you can't finish it in one sitting and don't want to start over when you come back.
Like Netflix. Like...
Yeah, Netflix your quiz.
yeah. So I'm trying to think here. Oh, I know what I was going to do. I'm going back to the mood board. So what I will go back and forth. I have trouble remembering every single thing that I'm doing here. But what I'm looking at is the way to have an area that gives you feedback. Something I also really like to do on quizzes when it comes to feedback is I'll give folks feedback on what, like, okay, no, this is the right answer, but I'll also sometimes add in like tips as well. So I might do a question on like, how do you create a sticky note in Miro or something like that? Well, I'm just thinking of that on the fly. And then I might give them like the different answers and then say, okay, this is how you do it. And did you know you can also do XYZ with a sticky note or something like that? That might also be helpful. So when I do feedback, I'll do that. Another thing that I think is super important when you're writing quizzes is if it's associated with something someone's learned, like they're taking a course and then a quiz, you always want to create questions that directly relate to the quiz. You don't want to throw anything in there that's like, that's unfair because they haven't learned it, because no one has given them the opportunity to do so. So that's something else I try to think about as well. So I'm putting this over here so I don't have to keep going back and forth to try to remember what this looks like. So
yeah, I've done that before.
I love the indicator, like right away, you know, if you got it right or got it wrong, some sort of like text that could say like correct or incorrect or something like that. And then the feedback. And then this is a 1-question quiz. So it says take again at the bottom versus next or whatnot. So
yeah, I definitely think that the little tip or, feedback on the question is really nice. It's a little bit more friendly than the you did not pass
Yeah, for sure. And something else I'm trying to think about too is like maybe in this instance, it wouldn't be bad to scroll like a little bit. I don't think it's necessarily if we put the feedback like
Mhm.
if people can see that there's more here, right? Like they're not just like, oh, it's cut off. So we'll have something kind of at the bottom there. Oh,
I do want to let you know, Mel, that we are about halfway through. So we've got a little under an hour left in today's. But we'll be back tomorrow at the same time, 12 p.m. Pacific time, with part 2 with Mel working on this quiz. So
awesome. And this is going to be my, I don't know if I want to do that. This is going to be my area for the feedback because I do like what they did over here. I have some other secondary colors that I could use. So I have this blue, some of these other ones. I don't know that I'll use these. Maybe I will just keep gray for now because I'm not doing high fidelity. I'm just going to like leave it as gray for now.
Yeah, these are sort of in between wireframes because you've also got your brand colors and fonts already kind of in here.
Yeah. It is a little bit in between because I had all this set up, so it's definitely that way for sure. And I'll just put placeholders for things for now. So like that will definitely not be. So this is where we'll put the icon. What I was thinking when I'm thinking through this right now is we already have some check marks and different things like that. So I could take that from over here and just reuse it and have that like illustrative style throughout the quiz. I think that could be fun and give it like that brand feel.
Yeah, the icons are super cute and they work well with the illustration style. So
yeah, I'm very excited about that.
And McCorn is saying this actually looks quite high fidelity. So
yeah, it is kind of getting there. I have a tendency to do that, and I try really hard not to do that because I want to really be able to like put myself in the shoes of like the learner that's going through this and be able to see like what is my eye focusing on. And when you have so many different things that you're working on at once, it's kind of hard to do that. So I just grabbed the feedback text. I'm gonna apply.
So a couple people are still talking about the quiz end. Corey saying, I guess it depends on the goal of the quiz. Is it just for learning how to use the tool, or is passing important?
Yeah, that's a really great call out. I don't know that passing is necessarily super important because it's something where it's more so to help you to test the knowledge that you have and to be able to make it like a little bit more sticky. So I wouldn't say it's like a life or death kind of situation with the passing, but I think it is nice to have like that level of rigor that you set for yourself when learning something. Like more high stakes types of assessments, they'll weight questions for this. Each question's worth the same amount. So it just it does really depend on like, what is your goal? What are you trying to get out of this? Or what is the person's goal that they're trying to get out of this? Are they doing it for a specific reason? Like, what would that reason be? I'm gonna put this down here.
Yeah, lots of good debate going on in the chat. Laura and Cornell are talking about whether or not you should be able to restart in the middle or at the end. Laura saying, I've wanted that many times at my job. We have quiz trainings all the time, and it's annoying to have to go through all the questions when you just want to restart.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think that's something else to think about for sure.
And Cornell is saying, but if you restart, you got to go through all the questions again. So what's the point?
Oh, I forgot to put like a subtitle here. The other thing I also have to think about when I'm creating these too is like the heading levels and things like that as well. Because if someone's using a screen reader, they want to be able to read, like, navigate the page by landmarks and like what makes the most sense. So you want to do things in order. So if you have something that's like an H1, like the screen reader needs to call out that it's an H1, someone knows like where they are on the page. And the expectation would be, it would be like H1, H2. And when you're coding things, you have to go by those tags. Otherwise, someone's not going to know what is a heading level 1 or what is a 2.
Yeah, that gets back to like the page kind of hierarchy and structure. Essentially, you wouldn't want to have an H1 be below an H2 if you can help it, so that when because the screen reader is going to look for that H1 before it looks for that H2, and so it can read things kind of out of order if you're using the styles in like a weird mixed up order.
Yeah, and I'm on my accessibility journey. I will profess that, like, I know on my website there's some things I need to fix, like my personal site. We were talking about animated GIFs and how animations on a page shouldn't last more than 5 seconds, because there are some animations that can cause people seizures or different things like that, which would be the worst thing that could ever happen. One of the worst things. Like, that is not something that you would want to have to happen to someone. So one way, so when you're working with animations, is to either have it stop before the 6-second mark, or to, which would be really good, would be give people control, to be able to give people control to stop the animation at the point that they want to stop it, which is something that can be done too.
Yes. When you are developing a site, you can choose to add prefers reduced motion. And if people have that setting turned on their browser, it will remove those kind of more intense animations from the experience. So, but it is important when you're designing to kind of make sure that none of your content kind of relies on the animation solely to tell the story, and that, you know, if people have that turned on, they can still experience your design essentially.
Agreed. So I just created, I didn't have this size before, so this is something I'm going to add over to my character styles. I like that it's bold because it indicates to you right away, like, if you got it correct or incorrect. So when you're going through and reading this, like, you're seeing this first because it's the biggest and boldest, and then your eye knows immediately after you know what question it is that it was correct or incorrect, and then you have your feedback here. And I think that adding an icon will also help with this as well.
Yeah, the icon is nice because it gives like immediate visual feedback.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point earlier about still learning about accessibility, I think we're all kind of always learning kind of across the board. I know I'm still trying to, you know, do my best, and it's all about balancing, right? Like, you know,
it's
making
about
sure.
Making progress, like not knowing something's wrong and saying, oh, well, like, you know, and accessibility is so important in learning. I got to work with this amazing accessibility advocate previously. And one of the things that she said that like really opened my eyes to accessibility in learning is like, you're giving, if you have a school and you have a wheelchair and you don't have a wheelchair ramp, you're essentially saying you cannot learn if you're in a wheelchair. Like, you're saying, like, you cannot enter the school. So by not creating accessible learning experiences, you're telling a huge group of people that they cannot learn. And sometimes learning is what enhances someone's career. It gets them to the next step. Like it's so critical when it comes to learning experiences, all experiences, but it's very critical as well for learning experiences.
Chrissy Sellers says, I'm learning how to use Premiere Pro. What app is this quiz for? Maybe you can tell us about Miro again.
Yeah, so Miro is a whiteboard collaboration tool. And so What I'm doing today is we have a built-in authoring tool that creates quizzes, not in Miro, but like in our learning management system that we're using. And so what I'm doing is creating the UI for a new quiz experience. So we're taking and enhancing the quiz experience that currently exists.
And thank you, Val. Val says we are using Adobe XD to design it and shared a link to XD if you want to check it out.
Thank you, Val. This is great. So
Val
one
is
of the
best mod.
So one of the things I'll also do is I love that they have this stroke outline around this because it indicates what you chose. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with this over here. So for our buttons and everything, we are using more of like a oblong shape. So, and also one of the things that I try to make sure I'm doing is staying like in our brand as well. So for our brand, it seems like with a lot of our lines, we use between like 2 and 4 pixels. So I'm trying to do that as well. We have like our own brand guidelines for things. And then
Val saying, I'm best mod. I want that in writing, Jack. Well, I said it, so it must be true.
Oh shoot, did I just move that? Oops.
I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true.
I'm like, maybe these are too close together. I don't know. It seems like these have a little bit more breathing room.
Yeah, that's kind of what, you start working with something and then you adjust as you kind of go along, like, now that I've added the line, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, that's what happens. It's always like a back and forth. And I'm like, why didn't I think of that before? Am I wasting time? And I'm sometimes very critical on myself, but everything can be undone and redone. And then I know better for next time too. It's a lesson learned.
Cornell is asking at what point we're going to add videos and Lottie files. You'll have to come back tomorrow, Cornell, and we're going to be working on some of that fun stuff. So
we'll definitely do Lottie tomorrow. And then I do have a video just to play with in here, but we're not going to be adding video to the quiz per se at this moment. So I'm going to go over here and grab one of these just to see what this looks like.
Laura added a +1 to the chat. I'm going to assume that was for Val. So I love the little check mark in there. It's such a cute way to do like a radial selection there. I like that.
But I wonder, because I did promise people I would get into more high fidelity stuff. I wonder if I should just start kind of tweaking at things here, and then I can do some of the other screens tonight. Because we've already seen we're already working on 1 question feedback. They're not going to be drastically different, so I don't think that's going to be super exciting for folks. And then we can work on the results passed.
Well, we've got about 20-25 minutes left for today, so that is up to you. It's always tough on these streams to get through, all of every single part of the wireframing.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, if you want to move on to doing some of the high fidelity stuff, I would say go for it.
Cool. We'll test it out here. So what I'm doing is I want this to be, I think these a bit lighter than the check marks and whatnot, so you can see it. So I'm just testing out the extended indigo color that I have over here and applying it to the border. Because I would want this to pop a little bit more so people know there's a check mark.
Nice, looking good.
And now I wish I made these components. See, this is where I'm like,
yeah, right.
I'm like, oh, well, I can just get rid of them and repeat grid again. Oh,
Oh,
of course.
there we
I'm
go.
just going to move this one to the top for now.
Yeah.
And then
So are you going to make that a component so you can turn on and off those different elements with states?
Yes, that is definitely something I plan to do. I'm kind of curious. Let me think about this. Yeah, maybe I will just do it right now. Because I'm trying to think of like what all I want included. I can always go back and edit it and change it, so it's not a big deal. So let's say question. And we could just have one and we could change the states for like the different things on the one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I might then go, when I do have a state, I might add this in here into the state itself and then this, but we'll just keep them outside for now. And I'm just going to do repeat grid because I just want to play with the amount of space between these. They were a little too close when you add the border there. Is anyone amazing at spacing?
It's always, like you said, a balance between like the grid that you set up and like what feels natural.
Yeah. Since I made that a component, what I'll do is I'll come over here and then I could just add them back in here too.
There we go. Boom. That was fast.
And done. Yeah. And so then we see like what's below the fold here. And I'm like, this is where I'm questioning whether,
yeah.
I mean, maybe I'll move things. I don't know. Because it's like, do I really need to see the footer? I don't know.
Yeah, that's tough because you'd have to scroll just for that.
Yeah, like why? Yeah. So I don't know. I'll play around with that more later too. Cool. Man.
So Mel, I think when we were talking before too, you got your start in AR simulations.
Oh, so not AR simulations or anything like that necessarily. It's actually like a really weird start. So when I first started, I have a master's degree in instructional technology. So that's what it's called. When I first started, I started in pharma, and in pharma, we got to create a lot of really cool, very different experiences, even early on. So this is like not early on, but like 2012. So it was like a decade ago almost. And we were using like virtual worlds and things like that, where people had avatars. Think metaverse, but like then. But like 2012 metaverse. So people were actually doing training in a metaverse, like selling pharmaceutical products. And
that's cool.
We did do like some different AR simulations where it would be so like the medicine attacking like something specific in the body, or those types of things, which was really interesting as well.
I mean, that sounds like it would be a fun game.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to do a lot of game-based learning experiences, those types of things too. So I'm going to finish up with the wireframes later, and I'm just going to start to do some of this more like high fidelity stuff. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to change this color because I know this isn't our color for our button component. It's actually like from the wireframing plugin. And something that Jack and I were just talking about is, having different states for this. So I might have like an active state, a hover state, different types of states for the buttons as well, and make this into a component that could be able to do that. So maybe I would have a component for this if I'm using a start button across different types of UI that I'm working on.
Everybody is amazed by your very interesting background. Laura says sounds so cool.
I was thinking like my background here. I was
no, like your career, I guess.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's such a very specific field. UX UI wasn't something I knew even existed when I was in college. So it was something that I like, looking back, is something that I may have done if I was in school still. So I'm seeing here, I have a lot of different illustrations that I could use. One that I like is this one that I might put around the title here. Play around with this.
By Cornell. Cornell is headed out.
Bye, Cornell. Let me see what I have responsive resize on. Just I don't think I actually did anything.
We've got about 15 minutes left, Mel. So maybe
thank you.
Wrap up the screen that you're on here and then do a quick recap. Let everybody know what we did today and what we're gonna do tomorrow.
Great. Yeah.
And now is a great time as well, if anybody has any last minute questions for Mel in the chat, to throw them on in so we can get them answered.
I'm debating what to do with this. Kind of like framing it. It is a frame that is framing. So yes. The thing about Miro is it is very similar the way you navigate and do different things to XD. So it's like I don't know, not forever whiteboard, but it's like a never-ending whiteboard, and you like navigate the same sort of way.
Yeah, it's like a big blank canvas.
Yeah,
you just put anything on.
Yeah. So
Voodoo Val has a question for you, and it's a good one. Mel, where do you find illustrations, any visual assets for app designs usually? Any go-to favorite places?
So for my personal projects, typically like I would use Adobe stock. But for this particular project, we have like a whole illustration library. So I'm pulling all of these from our illustration library and getting them from there. So we have so many amazing, talented people in design at Miro, and I get to use all of the assets that they create for different things.
Yes, Mel's working with the Miro brand, so that's where all of these little illustrations and icons that you're seeing are coming from. So,
should I put that as 4? We'll see. I think that might be like way too aggressive. So something that I like is maybe having like some sort of thing that calls out like it's a quiz, because there is a course. Cute. So you could like highlight this to draw attention to it. Maybe I want to move that a little bit so it's like not as on top of that. But it'll be playing around with it to see like should it look like that? Should I have this be lighter? I don't know. Should I have it be darker?
Or I like the little circle you added around the text. It feels it brings it all together back to the brand with that like style.
Yeah, like it's fun. It feels fun. I'm just trying to decide. I feel like colors, it's so hard with colors because it's like do I want to
endless time picking colors?
Yeah, like I want to have like, there's some rules about colors, right? It's like, what is it, like 60-30? I don't know. Like I'm trying to think.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about, and I don't remember the numbers offhand.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I want to have like an accent color, and then I want to have like, I don't know.
I mean, I think I like the lighter colors better just because it sets it back and brings the question back into focus.
Yeah.
Is there
so maybe like something, I don't know. I'll have to see. Because I want the screen to be a little bit more like eye-catching and interesting for folks. So maybe something else I can do. I have these are what our collaboration cursors look like. I don't know if that's like the right term for them. These are some people from my team. So what I could do is add these around too to draw attention to specific areas.
Yeah, so those are in the Miro. Those indicators are in Miro. They like indicate when somebody's in a file, just to be.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, they're in the tool itself. So I could take this one. I could do, I don't know if it's like -90. Nope, maybe it was just 90. Yeah, so I could do this. I could maybe make it a little bit closer. I don't know. They look like they're on different sides of this. I would probably balance them out a little bit. Play around.
Annika is heading out. We'll be back tomorrow.
Great.
Excited.
Thank you for joining us, Annika.
Corey's asking, how long might you usually spend on wireframes not getting into high fidelity at all? What kind of process might you go through to validate them? Is there room for dev feedback? So big question. Basically, at what points do you get feedback on a design, I think?
Yeah, we have like a whole process, and it's actually like we map our whole process out in Miro. And so what we do is we do design, review, and then edit design. And so typically, like in the past, what I've done and like what I did at Amazon was I would have 2 to 3 design reviews, and then from there we would move into the next phase, which it depended on like what type of a project was. So sometimes it was development, sometimes it was, like going through and doing something more high fidelity like this. It just depended on the project type and who the audience was and different things like that. I don't know that that answers your question, but for me, it's so important to have like clear design reviews, like staged out. Otherwise it could be going back and forth forever. Like you'll be in design reviews like until the end of time. So just mapping out that process is important and trying to stick to it, like unless there is a huge risk.
Benor, I believe that's how you pronounce that. Let me know in chat. Benor says, wow, this is cool.
Oh, thank you.
Benor is joining us from Ghana, West Africa. Wow.
Wow, that is
super cool.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Is it like really early or late there? What time is it? It's amazing how just adding these little details onto the screen has really brought it to life.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is the part that I like the most too, because it's what like what I love about design is like problem solving. So like we're trying to draw people's attention, like start the quiz, like yes. Like it's like go like the arrows are going in. They're saying like look at this thing, and then we're like, okay, we know it's a quiz because it's circled. Like these are the things like I just love because it's like it's making the experience so much better for people, and it's bringing the brand in and. I don't know. It's great. I love it. I think I might change this color because we have a lot of this color around though and make it something, I don't know. So if we do yellow here, this is the other thing. This is the last thing I'll cover in regards to accessibility today. So we have a plugin, Stark, which is the really great one. And so you can see the white on the yellow there. So we could do like a check contrast. There's also a rapid contrast checker. And you can see like this is not okay. It doesn't meet AA and it doesn't meet AAA. And it'll tell you that. But if we just change this really quickly to indigo, and let's see if I have it. Sometimes it's finicky. You have to have it selected correctly there. Then we do it again.
And it passes.
Oh, it passes, but I don't think it got the right colors.
No, that looks like the other one maybe behind it.
White. Yeah, sometimes you have to have it. This is what I was talking about. You have to just make sure it's on there correctly.
Oop.
Too many layers.
But those AA and AAA, they indicate different like
there we go.
WCAG compliance, I guess is the term. Like whether it passes at AA or AAA level. And those are just like web accessibility guidelines.
Yeah. So we've got a pass now on all fronts. So that's good. But there's also things like there's something that I'm not necessarily like it's something I'm trying to learn more about too, is also you can have too high contrast, right? And it can also be dependent on like this scenario. So you'll see sites or apps have like a night mode that can help you to read better, like in different like lighting. So I don't know. It's just amazing how far things have come in like the years with technology and like being able to help people uh, and personalize things. So,
Val has another fun question. What are your favorite parts of the design process and why?
my favorite parts, seeing people use the designs and seeing them. I don't want to say struggle. That sounds terrible. But seeing where I can help, like seeing that I'm able to make an impact and help people. And it could be something with accessibility. It could be something with like maybe someone doesn't understand something because it's like not clear in the design. And so like things like this, like where I see an opportunity to make an impact, like it's lovely to be able to help and be helpful in that way. Definitely my favorite. Was there another part of that question?
No, that was it. What is your favorite parts of the design process and why? Why is it your favorite?
Yeah.
Which I think you answered. Oh, Val saying this is for both of you too. Yeah, I
Oh,
mean, I would
yes.
agree. I love the problem solving aspect of it. It's really nice to collect your user research and solve those problems, those pain points for your users. I really like, if I had to put like a pin on a specific part, I mean, I really enjoy the wireframing process just because everything I feel is so in flux, and there's so many opportunities at that point. So I don't know, but I also like the design. So
Yeah, wireframing is great too, for sure. I'm adding you to my design, Jack.
nice. I'm so excited I get to be a part of the collaborators. Very cool.
And
So
this
we
is
are getting close to the end. Um, if you want to go through and give kind of an overview of
yeah,
everything.
yeah, definitely. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. I may change that color because that's really bright. Awesome. So an overview of what we have done today. So let's start over here at the beginning. So we took a built-in quiz from a tool that I'm working in, and what we're doing is redoing the whole quiz. So all of the main screens, including the beginning screen, the question screen, the feedback screen, and the results screen. Those are what we're focusing on. So this is what it looked like before. Scroll through. Here's one of the questions.
I also never realized how tiny, looking back at this now, that font is.
Wow, it is very small. And something that I have been trying to do is not even use pixels when I'm coding. I'm trying to use rems. So also,
yeah.
I said I wasn't going to say any more about accessibility, but rems will scale to the size of whatever your browser set. So if you have your font size set to a higher font size, it'll go up to that one. And other ways, pixels, it doesn't do that. So anyways, so we have looked at the old design, and now we're currently in the phase of starting to go more high fidelity with the new design here. So we've got the main screen, the first question, the question one and feedback. I'm going to do the wireframe for this tonight, and then I'm going to do a little bit maybe of the wireframe for this, but I think there's some fun things we can do with the wireframe. So maybe I'll save that wireframe for tomorrow. We'll see. And so the last thing I will leave you with in regards to what our goal is here is that we are trying to help users feel less frustration in taking the quiz. We want them to be able to test their knowledge, but without that frustration. So some of the things that we're really focusing on is letting people review their answers before they submit, which they can't currently do, to have that Miro brand experience, which our current mockup does not have, the one that we started with. Take the quiz on a mobile device, which is a little bit tricky right now, and then to clearly interpret their results. So those are the things we're working on. So here's the mobile view as well, what we're going to be updating.
Yeah, great. So thanks everybody for hanging out with us today. You can find Mel on her LinkedIn, Twitter, Behance, or her site. So be sure to check out. I'm sure Val will post the links in the chat again. And be sure to come back and join us for part 2 tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific time, and stick around for the XD Daily Creative Challenge with Elise immediately following the stream with Mel. So anything you want to leave the audience with, Mel?
Thank you all so much for your feedback on the design. So many great ideas. I'm going to be thinking about those tonight and incorporating them, especially Val. Some amazing feedback. So thank you all, and I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Bye, everyone.